talking to Danno O'Shea from My Son the Hurricane, Vegas Funeral Records, which I love the name Vegas Funeral Records. Also an accomplished business music guy, and this is brought to you by Krown Rust Control. Save your money, protect your vehicle from rust. 4790 Montrose Road in Niagara Falls. It is Krown Rust Control. Have you seen the fire movie that is out on Netflix? From the Fire Festival?
It's so intense to me.
I thought of you right away because you book a lot of festivals like for your band.
Yeah, and we can, I like to think that I have the ability to smell fire, to, just use a pun there. But I can smell the smoke usually whenever I can tell a festival is not one we should go to because maybe the infrastructure is not yet ready. Sometimes it's just, it's the first year and it's not a good fit. And I remember I kind of followed Fire Festival. I remember when Blink backed out and people were like, and, concert goers were saying, who cares? And I remember thinking like, this sounds bad. And watching that as someone who books a lot of those things, I had like a hives and I had to like keep pausing it. And that moment, when you're realizing they're 3 days away and you're like,
no places for these people to stay, no food.
It's just like head in the sand, like a true sociopath, and like the moment where he's standing on the picnic table and
directing people.
And I'm just like, to me, I was getting like canker sores watching that. I was like, this is my worst nightmare as an organizer. And I'm like, I love organization. And I'll tell you, we have played some amazing festivals in Canada. I remember, Burlington Sound of Music and Hillside and
First Class,
Evolve, and Riverfest Allura. Like they're bringing in huge acts, huge like major volunteers, major infrastructure, food, this, that, and it's just to a T. Like there's just nothing not considered. And then you watch something like this and you think like, you know who we're just discussing? It's amazing that like Ja Rule just gets off scot-free. I also think that there should be some sort of accountability for these influencers who are paid serious money to endorse something that embezzled people out of it.
But these models would have agents, lawyers, people that represent them at that level. Would somebody not look at that and say, I don't know that you need to put your brand on something that is so shady?
I guess if the check goes through, then you have every reason to believe it's legit.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
So like at the beginning, it looked really legit. And I love that movie because at the first like 40 minutes, it looks awesome.
Beautiful.
And then there's like a moment of doubt. And then
it went downhill.
It goes downhill fast. And I just think of it and I get gray hair.
Do you think that, what do you get, 6 years or 8? I think 6.
6 years.
Do you think that was fair? And the best part of that show, I thought, was he actually gets out on parole and then he gets into another scheme of scamming people.
It's just, that's crazy. I love giving people something awesome for their money. I always think that with Hurricane, even when we have high ticket price at shows, I always think, I really want to do something special. And I just can't imagine being the exact opposite way, like, trying to sell fake Bon Jovi tickets for $950. Right. That's just like, it's corrupt.
I have some My Son the Hurricane tickets if you'd like to buy them. They're really cheap.
Well, I'll tell you, I see us on StubHub and I see us on sites like that, on scalpers. And I think I just saw our Philadelphia show. Someone is, scalping tickets. And I thought, oh man, I guess that means you've made it when they're selling your tickets offline.
Just a couple more things because I've kept you for a while here. So you have a new single out.
Yes.
Ride the Bullet. Now, this isn't going through all, but so I get this on Apple Music.
Certainly, yeah.
So explain this a little bit. I pay a fee to Apple every month, $10 or something for all the music I want. Mm-hmm. And I just go this morning and say, I want to listen to this new single.
Certainly.
So you as an artist, or maybe explain for people who don't understand how that works. So you're getting a piece of this.
Yeah, so we get a piece per time it's played, but it's very small.
So right now I'm making you money.
Yeah, certainly. But I mean, we're talking about hundredths of a cent.
So you owe me a beer after.
Yeah, good. Yeah, after you play it 500,000 times, I owe you a beer. So, I mean, I think, there are ways to pay for people who want the artist to get money.
Don't do this.
Well, you can do that, but there's also, we have a lot of people who come to our merch table and buy a CD, and they don't even have the means to pay for it or to play it. I don't even think I have the means to play a CD, and then they go and do this because that's how they want to support. Or you can get it on iTunes. There's lots of different ways in which to do that. So
this isn't a bad thing.
No, I don't think so at all. And it's like, I always say it this way too. If you bought a CD before and you no one was ever upset when you played that CD over and over and over and over again. And the other thing is, I always try to explain this to people when they say, well, you're only getting shreds of a cent on that. If you look at an album like from my youth, what's a good one? Like Jagged Little Pill, that's a great one. Like that Alanis record. She didn't even make $2 a record, which is fine. She
had a bad record deal?
No, she had a great record deal.
Oh.
She actually did really well. And we usually think that, wow, that seems like not a lot of money. Like, where was the $18 I spent on it? Well, it was going to a retailer, and it was going to this, and it was going to the recoup, and it was going to the label, and it was going to and there was all sorts of people it was going to. And she got this amount. Now, obviously, she owned her publishing. Obviously, she was getting money as a writer. Really smart stuff. But it's not. We like to assume that people were making $12 a record. It's not It's not the case. Right. It's even the smartest business people. I look at just in Buffalo, Ani DeFranco. She owned her own label. She was probably making somewhere in the tunes of like $7 to $8 a record, and that's very high.
Very high, right?
Very high, and obviously not as commercially successful. But it doesn't matter. Some people. I'm always amazed at the different fields of music that are out there. When I was as a drummer, I used to play in like Kentucky at these like tractor pulls, and there would be 10,000 people there. And I was like, what is this? Or the Irish scene. There's like a Celtic scene in the States. There are scenes that we just don't know. I personally hate the blues. And the blues scene is like giant in places. So it's it amazes me.
I started out with the question, can you make money in the music business? So we can end with this too. So with the right structure in your band and in your business, you can become a full-time fledged music guy. I mean, you are.
Yeah, certainly. And I had to learn, right? Because all those years that I was drumming for people, I wasn't learning the business. It was only when I wanted Hurricane to do things, or when I realized that I have 10 people, I really want to pay them. I think that's appropriate. How do I make that money? And so I really started looking into it, and there is money out there for bands, and I think just simply decrying things like Spotify and Apple Music, like that doesn't help us. They're not going anywhere.
Right.
I think over time the royalties will get better. Nobody decries YouTube, which I find really funny, because YouTube actually is the worst offender. They are the worst offender, and they make it feel better because they do offer a way to like monetize with ads and things like that. But they're still making mass money off you. So, the answer is absolutely. But I think it involves education and a lot of work. I'm willing to put in the work. I don't mind the work.
How can people find you, I guess, through whether it be Vegas Funeral Records, or how do people touch base with you if they want to, or ask you questions, or
certainly
I can try to find ways to get more monetization your way.
Yeah, well, hey, I'm all about that. But my son, the Hurricane, and that's son as in SON, is on all the socials, and Vegas Funeral Records, which is maybe the dumbest record label name of all time, is
see, I love it.
It was actually named to be vague. That was in the early days.
Oh, God,
there were so many record labels there was a lot that were coming at us, and I purposely wanted to have a vague name that you couldn't search. And I was like, well, if I put these two words together, that is unsearchable.
That's right.
And then things started going so well, and I started getting checks to Vegas Funeral. I went, oh my God, I guess. And I remember going to the bank and saying, I need to open a business
called Vegas Funeral.
And they're like, yeah, even now, whenever I get checks that, I always laugh. But so Vegas Funeral is on Facebook and things like that too. And there's always booking at vegasfuneralrecords.com, goes right to my phone. So that's the biz.
You're going on tour, and Any local dates that anybody could check you out this spring, summer in St. Catharines or well, you're playing Burlington Sound of Music, right?
No, that one isn't. We played there last year. We are still working, hopefully, to get a date with them.
Okay.
But we have, in St. Catharines, we're actually not here till the fall.
This has been a hurricane, but it's been a fun hurricane.
I enjoy it.
Danno O'Shea, this is brought to you by Krown Rust Control, 4790 Montrose Road, Niagara Falls. This is the Industry 45. I'm Shane Christopher Neal. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Cheers.